Hi, Gary W0TM, also known as Gordon. Back again, happy to see you. New video titled, "The World is Awash with Gold." The world is awash with gold. You may not believe that, but the next 10, 15, 20 minutes, I think you'll change your mind. It's certainly been all the things I've learned have been a shock to me over the years, but so be it. Anyway, by the way, a couple of bits of housekeeping. I've had a couple of comments of people saying, gee, I can't believe anything you're saying unless there's just lines and lines and lines of attributes at the bottom in your show notes. Well, number one, how many people read attributes? The answer is nobody. I've never read them in my life. Books and so forth, that the last 10 pages of a book has for legal reasons, attributes and where quotes and stuff were taken. Number two, if I did all of those, I wouldn't have time to do very many videos, almost none. Number three, I don't have a staff. My staff is me, and if you've seen on previous videos, my dog, Blaze, and that's it. If any of you would like to volunteer, boy, I sure need it. I need somebody to jump in, number one, above all, to do to get my website going, GaryAntis.com. It hadn't been touched for months, and I want to put all these videos on it. I want to do so much stuff. There's not hours in a day. There's 24 hours in a day, and I need to sleep once in a while. So if I were to do attributes as well, I wouldn't have time. Number four, when I say things, I am, you've already heard it, very analytical, very engineering-oriented, left brain, so on and so forth. Unless I have researched it to death and have at least two solid sources of information that confirm what I say, I don't say it. Or if I do say it, I include, this is a maybe, this is possible. It might be, buyer beware, so on and so forth. You'll hear that from me. I encourage you to do your own research. Please don't be, I hate to use the word lazy, but gosh, if you find what I say interesting, that's good. I'm trying to pass on the knowledge that I've been fortunate enough to pick up in my lifetime. This is not a high-paying job, by the way. I think my last check from YouTube was $6, and that was an all-time high. So, I do this because, well, I just like to do it. I get so many good comments from people coming back saying, gee, I didn't know this, I didn't know that. I can't remember ever getting a comment coming back saying, you made that up, and so forth. I have gotten that where they said, you made it up, prove it. Well, then I used to take the time of then going through, discovering where I learned it and so forth, and usually they didn't even respond. I would send them an email with, it would take me like a half a day to do and show exactly, down to the letter, exactly where everything came from. And they didn't even have the courtesy to answer, So anyway, I will in the future attempt to, if I can remember, when I say things, I'll include Google search words or search phrases, like I just used, the world is awash with gold. I'll throw in, won't put that in YouTube, but put other things in YouTube, like how much gold is in the world, how much more gold has been mined in the last 20 years. There's lots of things you can put into Google and come up with astounding information that you didn't know. Google is, and other search websites, websites in general, other YouTube videos, so on and so forth. But the folks that are out there, and I give them their due, congratulations, you became famous by, your own doing. I mean, you just decided you were, how many people on YouTube do you know that were discovered by somebody else or became famous because they were, elected to some big, they were chairman of the IMF or whatever? Almost nobody. The people on YouTube that call it famous are famous because they have their own radio show, their website, they sell their DVDs, they sell their books, they do interview after interview after interview. Try and find a bio on them and you know, that goes back more than 5-10 years, you normally won't find anything. When they make just, you know, I consider them to be crazy projections, like saying, you know, silver is going to be $20,000 an ounce by next month. When they make projections, I did a video on this and said, you know, an interesting thing to do is make copies of those videos, or at least note them. And then when the date comes around, when somebody said the silver is going to be, you know, $5,000 an ounce by February 1st, 2015, well, mark that down. When the date comes, go back and find that video. I'll almost guarantee you the video is going to be gone. Doing YouTube videos myself, I know that it's quite easy, just a mouse click, to erase a video. And when these folks do videos that they just have ludicrous, I consider to be ludicrous projections or forecasts or whatever, and then they turn out to be nonsensical and it didn't happen. You know, ETs are going to invade the world next month and so on and so forth. But when it doesn't happen, those videos are gone. And no one, but the thing is, no one, you know, people think of news, their time span is like, you know, yesterday and tomorrow, and that's about it. So they religiously follow people that make just crazy, I consider to be crazy, forecast projections. They do, you know, interviews, so on and so forth, and they continue to become well, you know, be well known and looked up to and so forth, when in fact they're just, you know, they're a house of cards. They the things they say are 98% of the time made up. Well, I'm not. I'm that dull guy, the engineering guy, the techie guy that when he says things, they're useful, I hope. They've not been heard before, I hope. I come up with things that I've uncovered by putting pieces together. I've always considered myself to be a person that puts puzzles together. I've always considered I've got a big pile, and I accumulate them because I don't know what they're ever going to mean. 99% of them never mean anything. A big pile of unmarked puzzle pieces. I put them together, and all of a sudden, before my eyes, I see, wait a minute, that is a Van Gogh painting, you know, or equivalent. And I've done that so many times and uncovered so many things. Like if you watch my video on Fukushima, that came from putting pieces of a puzzle together, learning, you know, following news bits. You go to Google News, I should have mentioned that as well. Not only Google, but Google News and a few other sites. You put those together and go search for things. You'll find all kinds of little bitty story bits that were broadcast one time 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. You add that up, you put that in with other puzzle pieces. Next thing you know, if you really are kind of a detective type person, you will come up with a story that no one else has figured out. You know, people just, as I say, their time span is like 48 hours, which is one of the biggest negatives of this world, and gets the human race into you know, terrible fixes. Like unfortunately, I consider us to be in one of those terrible fixes right now. Let's get down to, you know, the subject of this video. The world is awash with gold. It really is. There's let me give you some dry statistics. And once again, you can look all these up. Just put the words into Google. You'll pop up, or Google and Google News. You'll pop up with exactly what I'm saying. And if you don't, come back and tell me. But do the searching first yourself. Please don't ask me to do the searching for you. You know, I've got too many things to do. There's not enough hours in a day, and I've got to get these other things done. Or I'd like to. You'd like to see more videos as opposed to me searching through attributes. The gold in the world has increased by 400% since 1990. Why is that? Well, the price of gold all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, but kind of slowly. It was, you know, $35 an ounce, and it was 200, then 400, and, you know, so forth. It caused a lot of people to start up gold mines. You know, in 1985, the thought of gold mine, everyone thought, well, that's, you know, from the old West, and, you know, miners from 1865, and, you know, so on and so forth. And there are no gold mines, and hasn't been for 100 years. Well, that's no longer the case. If you go to some streams out west of Denver, every weekend you'll find hundreds and hundreds, especially that stream that goes up to Central City that goes down to Denver. You'll find hundreds and hundreds of hobbyists with some of them are higher end. They've got commercially made sluice boxes which can sort through rock and pull out gold. And I've stopped and talked to some of these people, and some of them say, hey, I've got a day job that I make, like $40,000 a year by driving a bus in downtown Denver, but I come out here and sit under a tree and, enjoy myself and go over and, sort through some rocks and get a good suntan and I get out of the house and I don't have a spouse that's yelling at me. And this is a nice thing to do. Plus, I clear about $600 a week just on a weekend. I really ought to just knock off my bus job and do this full time, but there's been enough talk of outlawing searching for gold that I continue to have my day job, and so be it. But there's still a lot of gold out there, and if you go to oh gosh, I'm not a chemistry person. I'm trying to think of the name of the chart. The elements. There's 108 or 99 or something like that natural elements in the world. Everything from gold to silver to aluminum to iron, and I'm not sure if aluminum is a natural element, but all these things. And there's like 10 to 20 elements that are man-made that did not exist in nature, that were done in chemical labs and are still being done. There's 1 or 2 new elements added every few years, and some of those are really amazing of what they can do and the properties of them. But gold has been around for a long time. If you go to the element chart, you'll find I think there's 8, what they consider to be a family of 8 heavy metals. It's somewhere in the middle of the chart. Surrounded by it is lead, really heavy metals, and gold is in there as well. There's also 8 light metals. Well, what does heavy and light mean? Well, it means that as the Earth shifts around, and the Earth is always shifting 24/7 and has for billions of years, you don't sense it, you don't feel it, except every once in a while an earthquake, yeah, you do feel it. But rocks that are heavier than the average, of the planet Earth tend to drop. They keep dropping and dropping and dropping, and because of that, the deeper you dig, the more gold you find. Ask any gold miner, particularly ask the ones in South Africa where there are full-blown, major operations of gold mining that include the deepest mines in the world, to go down like 4 miles where the temperatures are above 140 degrees. I mean, you can only take so much heat before you've got to give up, and there's no atmosphere and no air, and you've got to drink, take oxygen tanks with you, and it's really a mess. So, but the gold keeps dropping, and because of that, scientists or gold experts or whatever, which I'm not, say that there's probably way less than 1% of the gold within planet Earth has ever been discovered, extracted, even known about. They say there's 99.9% of the gold. They don't know. I mean, if you haven't been there to see it, you don't know how much is there. The center of the Earth may be a solid gold ball that's 200 miles wide. Nobody knows. It probably isn't, but you just don't know. It's increased by 400% because the price has gone up so much that regular, full-blown gold mining operations have gone back. There are many gold miners, junior gold miners, major gold miners, so forth. You can buy stock on the interchange, on the stock markets that are ETFs that are for gold miners. Those didn't exist in 1990. Well, they do now, and because of that, the amount of gold continues to increase. There is a lot of gold, and there's going to be a lot more. Silver, on the other hand, which would be a different video, is a light metal. It tends to rise the earth naturally pushes it up to the extent that farmers, the earliest farmers in a little bit of history in Greece in 4000 BC, when humans changed from being hunter-gatherers to farmers, when they would plant their crops, it was always an aggravation that every year in their fields, which were well cultivated, they would, come along March ready to plant their crops, and all across the field were all these little shiny rocks. I said, oh darn, and their slaves or field hands or whoever would have to take buckets and walk across the field, one at a time, picking up these shiny rocks and taking them over to usually a corner of the field and piling up these shiny rocks, which happened to be, most of them, very high-grade silver. And that went on for, a couple thousand years. And it's still that fact that for a long time, for hundreds of years, when silver started to be mined because it started to become valuable, mining was not, digging or anything. You think of a miner as somebody that digs. Well, no, these miners were simply people that would walk around, look down on the ground, and see a shiny rock and pick it up. That's all they did. That was mining for hundreds of years, because the silver would naturally push itself to the surface of the ground, along with the several other light rocks. And you can look those up. Sandstone, and I can't think what else there is. It's a light rock. And there's also heavy rocks of lead. I think copper is a heavy, I'm not sure. Anyway, lead, so forth. You've got to dig for those because they keep going down and down and down. The only silver you ever discover that's really deep is silver that has been physically pushed down. Let's say a big slab of lead is on top of a silver vein, and the silver wants to go up, but it can't. Because of that, almost all silver, like 90% plus, is found no more than 200 feet underground. If you're going to be a silver miner, it's a lot easier job because you don't have to go down like 3 miles to get your silver. Your silver is close to the ground. The gold, Warren Buffett was asked, or somebody or other figured it out, how much gold exists in the world. Well, he said, it's been like 10 years ago, said that all the gold in the world has ever been mined, and gold, unlike silver, is not destroyed. It's rarely used in manufacturing. It's, it just doesn't disappear. 98% of all gold ever mined is still on the planet Earth. It's in watches, it's in medallions, and so on and so forth. That he said that all the gold ever mined is a cube that's 67 feet on each end. 67 was it 67 foot square, not square feet, but foot square. That's not too big. I mean, that'll fit in your house, and that's all the gold in the world. Silver, another story. There used to be in 1990 there was 4 times as much gold as there was silver. Or let's see, there was 4 times as much silver as there was gold in the world. That was 1990. And because of the fact that so little silver has been mined, mining of silver just, has literally stopped. It's just not economical. There's just no, reason to go silver mining. There's only like 1 or 2 dedicated silver mines in the entire world because it doesn't pay. Silver typically comes out of the ground hooked to or part of a copper mine, a lead mine, or whatever. And if you don't have copper and lead mines active, which right now they're not active, you're also not picking up silver. And the amount of quality silver that's 90% plus, has fallen like a rock. The amount of silver, it used to be they would for every 1 ounce of 1 ounce of gold, they would come up with 9 ounces of high quality silver. It's now closer to 50. And new silver is just not being found. Where on the other hand, gold, more and more and more of it's being found. As I say, the world is awash with gold. I can use the word awash because the oceans of the world contain dissolved gold dust. it's unfortunate there is no chemical way. Gold is not magnetic, nor silver. So dragging a big magnet behind the boat's not going to get you a thing other than maybe some tin cans or something. But you take every square mile of ocean, seawater in the world, and pull out the gold, which of course you can't do. But scientists, chemists, have taken small amounts of seawater and figured out what all minerals, chemicals, so forth are in the water. Among finding things like acid and bad stuff, they have found that there's a small amount of gold, and it's evenly distributed throughout the world in seawater. And you add it all up, there is more gold in the oceans of the world than there is altogether on land. There's a huge amount of gold that's in the oceans, but unless you know of a way to get it, I don't, and no one else does, so it's going to stay there. And the gold that's on land is typically easy to get a hold of, and typically kept in large hunks. You don't, unlike silver, where you open up a cell phone and it's filled with silver, but getting the silver out is next to impossible, because the silver is like microdots of silver that's spread around the cell phone, and like a typical computer has about a half of an ounce of silver, but getting it out is like a $10,000 to $20,000 operation, and to extract a half an ounce of silver for $20,000 doesn't add up. So gold. Once upon a time, and once again, go to Google, it's right there. There have been times in history when silver was worth more than gold for various reasons, and I won't go through those. They're all in Google. Look it up. It was rare because it just wasn't around. Whatever. The pharaohs decreed that silver was worth more than gold, so unless you want your head chopped off, you said, okay, I agree, silver's worth more than gold, and life went on. And but today, gold sells roughly $1,200, and gold and silver is roughly $17. Why is that? Well, there's 4 times as much gold physical as there is silver, not in dollars, but in physical. And that's flip-flopped from 1990. In 1990, it was just the other way. There's 4 times the other way. Now there's 4 times as much gold, and it's increasing rapidly. By the year 2020, they estimate if you keep on going, there's going to be 10 times as much gold as silver. And where does it stop? Where does it get to the point where there's so much gold to say, hey, this, I'm not going to pay $1,200 for an ounce of gold when it's so plentiful. And it's having gold, they say, is a lot safer than silver and so forth. Why is that? Well, it's just because people say so. Personally, I don't believe it. I don't feel that same way. Gold is worth what it is because people say it's worth what it is. And those people are, very powerful, mostly governments. Gold, if sovereign wealth funds, and that's basically the piggy bank of a country, is more gold than anything else. The country of China has imported gold for 4,000 years, and there are laws in the books in China that you cannot take it. You try to take an ounce of gold out of China, and you're not going to make it out alive if they catch you. So there's all kinds of finagling going on, and has gone on, with accounting of both silver and gold. If you consider the fact that gold has gone into China since the years of Marco Polo and so on and so forth, the Silk Trade, the Silk Road, and nothing's left. When you add it all up, it doesn't add up. It should be about 10 times the amount of gold. Plus, there's all of the stories of I can't think of the names, but Yamamoto's gold, treasure hidden somewhere or another in the Philippines. Just on and on like that. Who knows? But I do know that I think that China is way undercounting the amount of gold they have. the World Gold Council. You go to gold.org, and it has lots of useful information. It's a marketing organization, by the way. It doesn't do what I do, which is to keep track of, how much gold there is and metals and so on and so forth. There are 13 major World Gold Council offices around the world, and having seen pictures of several of them, they're really fancy. They got lots of staff and doing lots of stuff, and what the heck are they doing, and where does all the money come from? On the other hand, silver has one, Silver Institute, silverinstitute.org, and I've talked to the fellow that's supposed to run it, and he finally got to the point that he really doesn't make my phone calls anymore. At first, he thought I was, wanting to increase the visibility of silver. The silverinstitute.org is a marketing organization. They push the use of silver. They are not technical. They don't keep track of silver. They do have a yearly, and gold does too, an annual report of how much gold and how much silver there is. But where do they get the information? The information comes from the users, comes from people that hold it. It comes from like countries, China, India, so forth. And China could say, well, we don't have any gold, or we've got 150 quadrillion, tons. They could say anything. So because of that, there's no double checking, there's no verification. The amount of gold that people say, the amount of gold that they say that's in Fort Knox, for instance, I personally believe that just from, certain things that have taken place, that Fort Knox contains no gold that's actually owned by the United States, that we've got people guarding with their life empty vaults, or the vaults, if they do have gold, that gold belongs to other countries and so on and so forth. So is gold dangerous to hold? I believe it is. The reason is that it has no industrial use, or almost no industrial use, and if something really bad happened in the world, like nuclear war and so on and so forth, you might find countries, Germany, Italy, England, United States, so forth, having to take their sovereign wealth fund and cash some of it in. And much of their wealth fund is made up of gold. Think of half a dozen major countries of the world suddenly throwing hundreds of tons of gold on the market for whatever it'll bring. What would that do to the price of gold? Wouldn't do well. So I personally, I own some gold, but I wish I didn't. I'd rather have it be as silver, because silver will always have industrial uses, and even though it fluctuates more than gold, it doesn't have the downside that gold has, that you could suddenly find, I'm repeating myself, hundreds of tons of gold thrown on the market. And that could easily happen. And there's also coming up, I believe World War III is not too far away, but I believe it's going to primarily be cyber warfare and financial warfare. China will suddenly someday say, we're going to call a news conference and show off all the gold we really own. They're going to open up the vaults and say to the camera people and the news people, take a look around and so forth, and they're going to come out, kind of bug-eyed and say, gee, my God, I saw more gold in just one room than I thought there was in the entire world. At that point in time, China will say, okay, game's up. The yuan, which is their currency, is now the world default currency. The dollar is dead, which means the United States is dead, and China will have won the war by default. I can see that coming, and I can see a lot of bad things coming that have to do with gold. Gold is the standard and is worth what it says it is, because high-powered people, high-powered countries say that it's worth X dollars. From a rarity standpoint, silver is pretty darn rare. Gold is not rare at all. If you want 10 tons of gold and have the money, you can have it on your doorstep within 48 hours. If you want even 100,000 ounces of silver, which is not that much in relationship, and order it, you may end up waiting months You know, I've got, right now I've got 2,000 ounces of silver that have been on order for, well, I don't know how long. I just, you know, but I didn't really need it. It was kind of a bookkeeping thing that they needed to square up things, and I said, you know, just send it when you get it. They said, okay, well, if you don't mind waiting, we have some people that are desperate to get it because they don't have any at all. So I said, fine. And but I'm kind of running out of patience. You know, it's been months, and I've heard nothing, and they got my money, and but I don't, you know, the silver is supposed to be in my name, but that's about it. And I want to have it in my hands. You know, the old saying is, if you don't hold it, you don't own it. You know, is so true. Anyway, I think I've talked enough. If you have comments, I'd sure like to hear them. It's a good topic of discussion, I believe. By the way, the new screen video I've got up there, you probably can't read it because the words are too small. Desiderata. If I've got that thing memorized, I've had it memorized for 4 decades. I say lines of it in my mind 100 times a day. And Desiderata, the 23rd Psalm, you don't have to be religious to. You can be you know, agnostic, whatever, and still the 23rd Psalm can calm the soul. And Desiderata is more than anything. And the third is a saying that I believe is in the Bible: "This too shall pass." In fact, I did a video on that. So if you enjoyed, I'd like to know if you can read this. You probably can't read it. If you can't, just put Desiderata into Google and read what you see. I've got it memorized, and I couldn't get through a day without Desiderata popping into my mind and being of great use. So the world is awash with gold, and it's going to become more and more awash with gold, and to the point where there's going to be so much gold that you know, the top is going to blow off, and holders of gold will not want to be holders of gold. So I think it's dangerous to hold gold. I don't think it's dangerous to hold silver. Most people don't agree with me. That's just how it goes. So there you go. And any questions? I would like to have more comments and discussions rather than me just pontificating. So please ask questions, and I do take requests for things you'd like to have talked about, and you know, just tell me what they are. And if I can come up with something that's intelligent, I'm just not going to yammer on because somebody wants to know something. If I can come up with decent, good information, I'll do it. But what I talk about, as you know, are things that have not been talked about by others. I'm a techie, and I'm going to say that way, and an honest techie, that what I say is backed up by attributes that, I'm sorry, you're going to have to do your own work of using Google and Google News, but it's there. I'm about to do one on HAARP. I'm about to do one on HAARP saving the world from World War III in 2010. I'm about to do 3 or 4 other videos that are all attributed through Google, and you know, you'll just have to either trust me or do your own. If you do your own attributes for about 3 or 4 videos, you'll finally get to the point of saying, hey, you know, everything the guy's saying, that Woden is saying, is I looked it all up, and every bit of it is dead on right. So I'm going to stop wasting my time, and I'm just going to listen. So, you know, as I say, this is not a high-paying job. I've talked enough. That's the end of it. Hope you have a good day, and we will catch you later. Take care. Bye.